In today's video, we're going to be talking about something that is foundational really to any camper van. We like to think of it as the lungs or the respiratory system of our camper van.
Or is it the brain?
Or is it could be the brain.
Or the heart.
Really, it could be any because it's such a fundamental system of a camper van, and that is the electrical system. Now, we've talked a little bit about the electrical system in other videos, including one where we did an entire video on how to wire your camper van. What we're going to be doing is looking at the entire ecosystem of the electrical system in our camper van to make sure it's working the way that it was designed.
Better news for us this week is that it is finally spring. You can hear the birds, they're starting to migrate back, and it's actually a half decent temperature today, which means we get to work outside at the house rather than at the warehouse, which is a nice change of pace, that's for sure.
It is still technically below 0 degrees Celsius, so me wearing a sweater is a little bit ambitious, but you know what? Let's just jump right into this because I love talking about electrical camper van stuff. Something like that.
Something like that.
We're Rich and Kirsten, and after driving a minivan across the Canadian wilderness in 2020, we've fully committed to van life by buying a Ford Transit and converting it into a beautiful tiny home. We've been working on converting the van all by ourselves for nearly 4 months now.
How do you like my new scarf?
And we're finally getting close to putting on the finishing touches. As spring is inching closer, we're getting prepared to get back on the road to explore deep into the Canadian backcountry again this summer. But before we can move into the van full time, our van conversion is still in need of a bit of love to bring all of the comforts of a house into our new tiny home on wheels.
In between the last video that we filmed building out this van and this video, we did install these upper cabinets. We did these totally differently than we built the upper cabinets that are in our living room, and the main reason is the reason why is because we had to put lights underneath them, which meant that we had to essentially create a fake wall in these. It's not really mounted the same way either. All of the support is in the back and in the partition wall, and then there'll be another one at the end here. But we did have to do something that wasn't in the plans. I'm not sure if you can see, but the roof slopes down and the side of the vehicle also slopes in. So essentially we end up with a point at the end of our vehicle rather than nice square lines to work with. So in response to that, we decided to shorten our total cabinet. We brought it down to only 32 inches in the front rather than going the full 43 inches that it was supposed to go. And the last 10 inches here will just be an open shelf for Richard's crackers, but more likely like a vegetable basket. I don't have to install a vegetable basket. I can use this as a vegetable basket. This is perfect. I love it. All right, next.
This battery is going to be the heart and soul of our electrical ecosystem inside of our van. We've chosen a lithium iron phosphate battery, and we've talked on the channel already as to why we chose this over a standard lead acid battery. There's also a lot of content on the internet from people that are much smarter than me about this topic. If you're interested in something like that, you could Google why choose lithium over lead acid, or benefits of lithium over AGM, or gel deep cycles, whatever. We've chosen a home now for our lithium battery inside of our camper van, and it's gonna be going right under the bed. It's not the most convenient spot to be working. We have built an electrical cabinet right in here, so any sort of 12-volt connecting and disconnecting, and even our inverter will happen inside of that cabinet, so it will be much easier access. As for the terminal connections on our battery, on the positive end there's going to be 3 things that are connected to it, and on the negative end there's only going to be 1 connection. So on the positive side, we will start first with our 150 ampere circuit breaker. I checked the trip graphs on this online, and it's actually not 150 amp hours as to where this would trip. We've crimped and heat shrinked a beautiful connection of 2/0 cable or 2/0 gauge cable that is going to be connected to the positive end of our battery. On the negative end of the battery, I've also crimped some black 2/0 cable, which is going to be connected to this beautiful Victron shunt that we bought. This is a Victron Smart Shunt. This is our battery monitor in our van. Because it's Bluetooth, we can just hide it away in the van and use our phones to monitor our battery's voltage, our battery's current, and so much more. And by the end of the video, we will show you that application once our system is installed and up and running. When you're working with a medium-sized roof van and a medium-length non-extended van, you gotta do it. There you go. Did you have fun down there?
Let's just say I'm not gonna quit my day job and I'm not gonna become a contortionist. My whole body hurts.
Now that our gymnastics session is done for the day, we can move on to connecting more electrical components. I'm going to be installing this 12-volt bus in a second. This is essentially the distribution center for all of the 12-volt power in our van. But before we do that, we unfortunately have to do something that I really didn't want to do. I still don't want to do, and I hope we don't have to do again. Put more holes in the van.
Not actually, though.
Not actually. We're just putting holes in the partition wall here. I thought we were done with holes. Oh my god. Okay, now that that's done, I got a lot of wire crimping to do. All of this. Wow, that was easy. These cable cutters I got from Home Depot can cut up to 2/0 or 2/0 cable, and they cut through 2-gauge cable like butter, but cutting through 2/0 cable is a much different story. It takes a lot of force, and I'm not strong enough to do it. I was successful, it just took a lot of effort. It's not very exciting, but I like it. It's fun. Electrical stuff's fun. What can I say? There is one big problem with the 2-gauge wire that we're using to connect our 12-volt bus. I don't have the right size lug that'll fit on the shunt. So all of the lugs that I bought are 5/16 and I need a 3/8 lug to fit on the shunt. Do you see the absolute mess that we're working in right now?
This mess?
Don't show them.
Don't look.
Woo. That's light.
Light.
I want to open this cabinet and not have it look like a mess of wires because that's pretty much what it looks like right now. We're going to go get some heat shrink from Princess Auto. Unfortunately, we're losing sunlight. I hate when our video is late, but this one's going to just be late. I'm sorry, guys. Well, I guess by the time you see this, you'll already know that it's late because it will have been late already.
Unless you're joining us like 6 months later.
Possible. By that point, we're probably on top of a mountain somewhere. Kirsten, the electrician?
No. Third time's a charm, right? This is more like the 20th time, though. Let's be real.
The struggle is real.
Yeah, it's good. All right.
We took a couple hours this morning after making our Princess Auto trip last night to connect all of the 12-volt connectors to the 12-volt bus inside of our electrical cabinet, and I think everything worked out awesome. I'm really happy with the way it looked. We even took some time to do cable management and to also put on the heat shrink to make sure that our electrical components look nice and clean. So let's take a look here. This is essentially what we've come up with, our 12-volt bus here. Of course, we have our master positive and our master negative. The master positive going to the terminal of the battery around the other side of the wall, and the master negative going to our shunt, which we're going to talk about shortly. These red fuses are our light switches. So there are 5 amp fuses. The red fuse here is a 10 amp fuse. It's going to our max air fan. And the 15 amp fuse is for our fridge, which we have not installed, but we are about to. And as you can see, all of our heat shrink, our cable ties have been done nicely, and everything looks clean except for this component here. I'm not thrilled about the way this looks, but there is a lot of extra red wires because we've decided to put our light switches here. This one here will eventually be our water pump, but we don't even have a water pump yet. These zip ties are special ones that we bought here that have a screw hole so that we can zip cables together and actually screw them on the wall. So we've used them in 2 places. Everything looks really good. It all works perfectly. We haven't had any problems with the installation process. There is one more thing we're going to install, and it's something that is going to separate this van from the last van that we were living in. So clean, so nice. This is our Dometic trucker fridge. Having a refrigeration is going to allow us to stay, well, way out into the backcountry, whereas last time, every day or two we needed to go to a grocery store because we had food that needed to be eaten. Now we can keep stuff nice and cold. Got a little dirty. There were people working downstairs doing drywall, and our fridge has drywall particles all over it. Oh, what a fit.
Look at that baby.
That is going to be the home of our fridge. Ta-da! And in like 10 minutes, it's going to be operational. Pretty cool.
It's not actually as tall as I thought it was.
Pretty not so bad. Oh yeah, you'll be able to put a drawer for sure here. Like, look how big you can put a pot and pan drawer right here.
Yeah.
That's the way, I think. And here's the cable. This is what they gave us. It's pretty decent cable. It's a lot thinner than what I had planned on using. I bought this 10 gauge cable, but it is a lot thicker. I can't even crimp these two together. I'd have to solder them, and I don't have a soldering iron. When we did our first electrical video, we talked about how we decided not to use solar, and the decision to not use solar in our van is strictly about our use case. We spend a lot of time in the forest and in the mountains in Canada, which means we don't get a full day's worth of sun really ever, and we also spend a lot of time driving down backcountry roads where we might drive for 2, 3, 4 hours and only actually make it 20, 30, 40 kilometers. And if we ever decided to go to the southern United States, or were ever allowed to go to the southern United States, we would think long and hard about putting a couple panels on our roof. With that decision being made, this battery to battery charger is the only way to charge our lithium iron phosphate battery inside of our van. We do have a shore power charger that Linax sent us. It's a 10 amp wall charger, so we can use that as a backup, or if we ever have a connection to shore power. We did a full video on how to install this DC to DC charger, so I'm not going to go into too much detail today. I just wanted to show you our fuse solution. They are 6 gauge wire, which matches with what we are using, and we're going to be using one on each of the positive ends as the manufacturer recommends. And it's pretty simple. You just lob a fuse in here and call it a day. Do you remember when I told you that I don't have the appropriate lug to connect to the shunt? Well, I still don't have that lug, but I did find a workaround. Although I'm not going to show you because I'm a little embarrassed about it, and it's not the kind of thing that we should be encouraging on YouTube. I think if we left it for more than 5 minutes on its own, it would be a potential fire hazard. But we are going to tell you about the smart shunt.
A really important part of having an electrical system in your van is monitoring it, because without monitoring it, you have no idea how much power you have left. The last thing we want to do is draw our expensive lithium battery to zero. So we decided to go with the 500 amp hour smart shunt from Victron. It is a little bit on the pricey end, coming in at $200 Canadian. However, we think it's worth it for the convenience that it provides us. We don't have an external battery monitor that's going to be mounted in our van. Instead, everything is monitored just from our phones. So let's take you in the app and show you exactly how that works. So we're using the Victron Connect app, and as you can see here, we have our smart shunt listed. Just gonna go in there, it connects. It is by Bluetooth connection, so it's perfect for us on the go. All right, baby, fire it up.
You ready?
I'm ready. Here's the fan. And the fridge. Give me light. Let there be light. I probably ruined that moment. There's light, there's a fridge, there's a fan. These are all conveniences that we didn't have in the last van, and I'm so excited. So as you can see, our resting voltage of our battery should be around 13.4 volts. However, we have drawn it down a little bit, so it's about 13.3. And with the draws, it's at 13.25 currently.
And with the fridge going and all the lights on, and the fan, well, the fan has some power, but it's not actually working. We're drawing about 4.4 amp, which is not too bad for lights in a fridge. And once the fridge gets down to operating temperature, this fridge draws like just over 1 amp.
So all in all, we should be maintaining probably, if we had everything on, maybe about a 1 to 2 amp draw. Now that's not including anything that we're running off of the inverter. Which is going to be our induction plate and maybe a blender.
And that thing is power hungry, the induction cooktop. It'll draw 150 amp on you in no time. So we're gonna have to use a combo cooktop of using the induction at times when we know we have the power, and using our Coleman gas stove when we don't necessarily have the power. So there is a bit of redundancy built into that. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned something. And just remember that we are not electricians. So if you have any actual legitimate questions, consider consulting an actual licensed electrician.
Thank you so much to our patrons for their support. If you want behind the scenes content and access to videos before everyone else, feel free to join us on Patreon, where you can get exclusive access and connect with us on a more regular basis.
This was a big step forward for us this week. We're gonna be ordering our butcher block countertop soon, and we don't agree on the color, so we'll see how that one turns out.
Yeah, what do you guys think? Espresso brown, or light oak.
I'm standing my ground on this one, but we'll see what they have to say. Anyways, thanks for watching. We will see you in the next video, hopefully on time next week. Fingers crossed on that one. I don't like having videos late. I don't like it. It sucks.
It's life.
All right.
Bye.